Welcome to the Day After Podcast and our sub-show Pixar Sunday, where we watch and discuss every Pixar film in chronological order. In this episode, we had the pleasure of watching and reviewing 2013's Monsters University, directed by my buddy Dan Scanlon.
God, this is so much better than Monsters, Inc.
Holy shit. I don't want to get crucified. I mean, I don't care if I get crucified on the internet. Monsters, Inc. is bad.
It's not objectively bad. Like, there are good parts. It's boring.
It gets by on the fact that it was one of the first 10 when Pixar was unstoppable.
Yeah.
And they wrote the dialogue and the story different, and it shows. And I wanted it to be good because it was in that group of 10, and the reputation does not precede it.
I'm always surprised at how many people, especially people in my age group, have very, very fond memories of Monsters, Inc. I never really got it. Like, I never really connected with me. And after I watched this, you realize how bad that movie is.
In college, we were bored. Somebody's got Monsters University on DVD. I'm like, I felt about Monsters University how I feel about the upcoming Finding Dory, which I have not seen, that sequel, prequel for no reason. And then, like, my wife refused to give any details away.
Yeah.
And showed me that this actually has really cool merit. It has more holes than I remember back in 20 whatever I watched it.
Yeah, but probably the biggest issue for me with this movie is not all of the jokes land, and there's more jokes per minute than there are in Monsters, Inc. And not all of them land, but there is so much good going on in this movie, and I don't want to say it's an important movie, but you don't see college movies that do what this movie does. So I love this idea. The main motif that John was getting at was this idea of effort and study. Those kids in school who study really hard, they put in all the effort to get ahead of their peers. And then there's people who are just good at it. There's people who are good at school and good at how to do school. And often those two kinds of people don't appreciate what the other goes through.
Absolutely.
You know, you had that nerd who's so pressured to do well. Silly, they take it with an athlete tone here, but similar kind of thing.
Absolutely. I realized what I was going to say. And I want to appreciate that this is the first and only prequel. It's not the first in the same universe as the second of the Monsters, Inc. universe. What I appreciate, this is an interesting story about when Pixar says that story is king. There's kind of a tale I want to tell that when they were back making the much inferior Monsters Incorporated, they wanted to tell a story about how Mike and Sulley met. That maybe because there were plans in the future to make let's go back and see Boo, but then we get lost in the human world. So they decided, let's go back instead. Let's do college. But what worried them is a throwaway line back when they weren't spending as much time on the dialogue way back in 2001, where Mike just flippantly lets out,
"You've been jealous of my good looks since the 4th grade, pal."
They're like, okay, what do we do? They can meet in the 4th grade, then split up, and then they meet back again in college, but then they haven't met each other. And they're like, what do we do with this line we threw out of nowhere? And they talked and they talked and they talked, and somebody met with Dan Scanlon and said, buddy, if it's gonna hurt the story, ignore it. Mm-hmm. Take the loss on the lack of continuity in this universe. Yeah. And just ignore it. And I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I do definitely appreciate that. There's a worry that I had when I first watched this movie of it just being every other college movie. It's got that, like, tournament structure. It's all about Greek, hashtag Greek life. Oh, general classroom settings, and let's party all the time. Oh, partying all the time sometimes gets us in trouble. And this does not do that. This movie actually tackles why people go to college.
This movie has not big shoes to fill. It's a very muddy patch where you have to make sure you're not sinking into the bog that is every college movie.
Right.
Because when people watch college movies, Revenge of the Nerds, I'm sure there are other ones. Accepted. There you go. The people expect certain things out of college movies, and you have to make sure this isn't a college movie. I think it's a mixed bag. In some respects, it falls right on that.
And the elements are there. There are the elements you expect to see. Extremely goofy movie is what I constantly compare this movie to in my mind.
To the point where we called the villain of this movie
Bradley Uppercrust the Third. Yeah.
And he's not even the... Go ahead.
And so... You have that stupid rich guy whose parents bought his ticket in here. You have the athlete from a very well-to-do family who's going to be great here. And you do have this one kid who tries really, really hard. And he's not just written off as a nerd. He's not just written off. But at the same time, my absolute favorite thing about this movie, one thing I love this movie to death, because Mike does not, through all his effort and all of his trying, he doesn't suddenly become scary. And
thank God.
And I don't like that motif in schools where, like, oh, if you try really hard, you can be anything. I was like, okay, to be anything, you have to try really hard. There's a difference. Mike's not scary. He doesn't have the talent. That's a fact. There's nothing you can do to change that. Some kids are not born to be physicists or astro engineers. Like, not everybody's born to do that. And that's okay. That is okay to not have that raw talent. And this is what he really wanted, what he really strived for. What success means is when you get what you're good at versus what you can put effort for and what you enjoy.
The ending of this movie made me realize how trash the laughter as a substitute for scares twist at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
That blows.
It's stupid.
It's supposed to say, oh, now Mike can be involved.
Yeah, but Mike was always involved. He is a very, very important part of this team.
And I talked about that in the podcast. I said, dude, this is a team effort.
Yes.
Work it out. Oh, God.
Yeah, and this movie is about Mike. It's not really about Sulley. It's about Mike and Mike's journey. Sulley is there because it's an integral part of that story, but...
we will return in just a moment to Sulley and Mike. I want to point out Bradley Uppercrust III. What the fuck is his name? I feel so bad.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Leader of stupid... bully fraternity.
Yeah.
What I love is Pixar seems to have learned something since Francesco Bernoulli, the Cars 2 antagonist to Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was such a thorn in my paw, but here we go. He wasted a lot of time, and because that movie had a twist villain, you thought Francesco was the bad guy for a lot of it. The Pixar has started to learn that you can have a shitty second bad guy that's not near the focus, and you can just be a dick.
Yeah.
And
you
that
can just
respect, Bradley Uppercrust does a fantastic job.
Yeah, I'm sorry we don't know your actual name, dude.
Bradley Uppercrust takes a back seat to the fucking BAMF of this fucking university. Why is she such a hard-up bitch with a grudge?
Yeah, why in the fuck do you want people to fail? You fail as a teacher when you do that.
But I think that it was set up for her to realize she's not doing something correctly as a teacher because she is so set on getting revenge on these two kids that effed up her one souvenir from a lifetime of scare.
And that's not, I mean, she throws that canister away, John. That she does not care about that can.
Once it was empty.
No, she doesn't care about the scream, the first scream. She's like a lifetime of scaring. What she's mad at is these two are disrupting the status quo. Because, again, a scarer should look like her. Number one, can we fucking talk about her design?
Okay, guys.
Jesus Christ, I would shit my pants if this was anywhere near my face.
Guys, shout out to the Pixar website who has a lot of behind-the-scenes shit and a really good information source for this podcast. They have, among other things, early designs for Sulley and Mike, like Mike wearing a Letterman jacket, but he has to look through the neck hole, and Sulley being kind of a scrawny guy before he gets famous. Those guys change into what you know today. Dean Hardscrabble had one design from the beginning because they knew a fucking flying centipede is going to make me shit my pants.
A flying dragon centipede with goddamn horns on her head and a absolutely beautiful voice actress, Helen Mirren. Oh my god, she just does an absolutely fantastic job.
I appreciate that this movie... It runs over the finish line rather than stumbling like, say, Cars 2 or Brave does, and that the ending is one of the most powerful moments of this movie.
Oh, it's so good. The Oozmacappas, not all of them are all funny all of the time, but they all serve their purpose.
Well, the one I want to focus on is Don, because Don Carlton is a member of college life that doesn't get talked about a lot, and that's the person who turned 50, got downsized, and said I could be crying about it, or I could go back to work and learn computers.
Yep. So these are non-traditional students, is what they're called.
Oh my god, that's so good. They don't talk about that, and it's not like they want a prize for talking about that.
No.
Because they're grabbing the pendant while trying not to get stuck in every college movie ever.
Yeah, and so you talk about these things that on a college campus you would actually experience. Non-trads are one of those things, and I love their representation here. But it's not showing like, aren't we so inclusive?
No, it's not. They're not even trying to get points. And I feel like it's harder to be inclusive, to try to get inclusivity points by doing something good for Mike or Sulley, which means they're not earning inclusivity points with the ending where they learn I could graduate Scare School, go straight to Scare, or I could go mail carrier, janitor, food worker, canister holder, Scare.
And I love this movie. This movie came out while we were in college, and my favorite thing that I absolutely adored about this movie when I first watched it was because when I was a kid, I was never ever sold that there was any other option besides going to college. You had to go to college in order to do anything if you didn't want to end up broke living in a dumpster.
And that learning that you can surprise people, I don't want to say it's important, but it's an interesting motif that doesn't get talked about. I find the most powerful scenes, some of them, come from the most hard-up characters. Like at the end when Hardscrabble meets them at the bus stop and says, "You made me change my mind. Do you know how rarely I do that?"
Yeah. Like you took every assumption I had and turned it on its head. Nobody's ever done that before, and she's almost like glad it can still happen.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think in some ways she's very much a cynical character, but that's what when you're Flying Centipede, you've seen a lot of shit.
God, I feel bad. We keep looping back on the same points, but
okay.
There's some good stuff.
Okay, let me take a break to do Pixar Mainstays. Before I do want to shout out an apology to the man who I've been calling Bradley Upper Crust III. He is voiced by Nathan Fillion, and his character is officially Johnny J. Worthington.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Sorry, Bradley.
I apologize. I apologize, Nathan Fillion. Welcome to Pixar Mainstays, where we discuss the common elements that appear in nearly every Pixar film. The Pizza Planet truck is parked outside of one of the original house parties.
Yes.
It's not really that clear. John Ratzenberg shows up in a better version of the Abominable Snowman, alluding to the fact that if you fuck with the mail, you're probably going to get banished. John Ratzenberg, you did a good job. The one that I find very special, though, is the A113 in this, that has a special significance in this case. When Sulley first bursts onto the scene, he's throwing the doors open and roaring, and you can see that the classroom number is A113.
Yeah, go ahead.
The special significance of that is that A113 was originally a classroom number at Caltech.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Okay, I'm done talking.
That is that lecture hall.
That is really nice.
If we can go back to Mike and Sulley for a minute. They're horrible people before their turn.
Oh, they're horrible to the point where like I wish their turn had happened a little sooner, because it feels like at times it's spinning its wheels.
Yeah, they're great foils for each other in that they have different approaches to college life, but they're both arrogant. They both really talk down to people at pretty much every opportunity, especially the Use McCappas. And they're stubborn. They're as set in their ways and their worldview as Hardscrabble is.
It's okay, guys. We're gonna make it because we have this. Oh, Heart. No, me.
That's so funny. I'm gonna carry the fucking team. I was like, God, Mike, you're an asshole.
He's a dick, but he's turned off the Billy Crystal shtick a little bit.
Yeah, it's not as shticky and as quippy as it is in the first one, which is nice.
There are shades of him, but they keep it generally under wraps. Sulley also John Goodman has done a really good job playing a more confident, lax version of himself before he hardened up.
Yeah. I would say my biggest problem with this movie is its pacing. It really drags at some point. It seems very confined to that tournament arc, where in this one we have to fail because this reason, and this one we just have to barely pass, maybe even on like a technicality.
Well,
and later on we gotta learn that, if we work together, we do the goods.
Oh shit. Okay, okay. Now is the time where we start to say bad things about the movie.
Yes.
The least bad thing. The prologue where Mike goes on a field trip to the scaring, what do we call it, the factory?
Yeah, the Monsters Incorporated.
Oh, Monsters, there you go.
Yeah.
He, even while it's supposed to set up that he wants to be a scare, that scene does drag a little bit.
Yeah, it's slow.
Corny, like this one guy's like, no, you want to go to this university. It's like, it's really corny, it drags a little bit, gets its purpose out of the way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to swear the rest of this. The university scare games, from a fan of reality television, I have some problems. Okay. The most petty of which, number one, your tree mail needs some work. These casual rhyming things where they're like, kids like scares, so don't... the rhyming is really stupid. The second one is that when they almost get eliminated in the first act, that is the purpose it's supposed to set up is that, all six, you guys are being shitty, and as a result, you almost got eliminated. But then the movie just writes that, you failed, but you get to stay because, I don't know, he's wearing protective jelly. That's dumb. Episode 2, I'm not done. Episode 2.
Yeah, get it out.
Episode 2 is better. Episode 2 is, it opens up the idea of non-trad thinking and non-trad studies, of think outside the box. They did not say, don't get heard, they said don't get caught.
Yes.
And in that respect, it's Sulley that thinks outside the box, which shows them growing, because Mike should have been one of the ones that thought of that.
Yes.
And they do get better. You don't have to see every round, so I'm glad they skipped past hiding and that cool-ass maze with the teenagers.
That cool-ass maze with the teens.
That was really good. I think I'm done.
And so with the pacing problem comes kind of the over influx of jokes. I'm glad they're not all Billy Crystal shtick jokes. But like the snail running to class, the where they get painted on and flowers and glitter thrown on them. Oh, isn't that so horrible?
They spent too much time on it. I appreciate the reverse Carrie nod, where in real life they threw blood on them, but in a scary universe they're throwing cute things on them.
Yeah.
But they spent too long thinking about, oh, don't you look silly? Are we making fun of you? We already know you're a dick. We don't need reaffirmation.
And I will say, every single time Art talks, I laugh.
I can get it. He does that occasionally.
But if they spent any more time, if they did any more jokes with Art, he'd be unbearable. They hit the perfect sweet spot, and I wish they had done that a few other places.
Yeah, Art gets just a little enough time that he works even better than Terry, Squishy, and
Don.
And Don. Don.
Yeah.
But Don, take it or leave it.
Right.
One thing that I don't appreciate is that this movie feels at sometimes like it needs to remind you of a continuity to the original, which came afterwards. The first thing that I thought of is Randall Boggs.
Yeah.
I think that I was worried he was in it way more, and that you always had to be like, oh, I used to like you. Why don't I like you? Because I fit in with the cool kids, and then you made fun of me. And at first you think the reason he hates him is because he got cupcakes to spell out "Be My Pal" shoved on his face when they were at the party.
Yeah.
And then it's not. And then turns out Sulley beats him at the college, and then that's when you say, oh, you'll never lose to me again. And is the audience supposed to go, that's the motivation Randall has? I was looking for that.
So they dropped the continuity thing with I've known you since kindergarten. Randall doesn't need to be here. I don't think that he hurts the story by being there, but he wastes time, and he fills out space and time that you really don't have.
Yeah, it's not a long movie. It's very not well paced, but it doesn't waste its time.
Yeah. You're not actively wasting your time, but you're just like there's several times where I'm just like, okay, come on, like next scene, please.
Randall is proof that not every character needs to show up. Randall is barely in it, just a little too much. But even the one scene where Always Watching Wazowski shows up. The slug gal who's always watching. Oh
yeah.
She doesn't need to be there. That was a one nod that didn't need to be there. There's even one gag about him. His picture doesn't show up on his ID card. That was a quick gag that's in out.
Yeah, and they needed to do more in out if they're gonna make nods to the original. But we're biased because you've heard our opinion on the original.
The most baffling opinion I heard on this movie was why isn't Celia in this one? Why doesn't she show up? You liked that character?
What, you're mad that there's not enough girls?
There's not enough. What? It's not important.
Right. It doesn't come up. Like, it's not what it's about.
Do you have any other grievances before I put this to rest? Because we were talking a lot and it's already 24 minutes.
Yeah, we should probably go ahead with final thoughts.
It's you go first.
I love this movie. Not only because it's way better than Monsters Inc., because it does things that I want to see more of in movies. Kids need to know that you don't have to go to college, that you can choose a different life path, and that's okay. You don't end up a failure. Some people are not destined to do things, and it requires your own personal effort to discover what that should be. And this is a perfect place to show that, but the point is that it was shown in this movie, and I really appreciate that.
The best thing this movie does is walk a line, is simultaneously make a college movie and a Monsters, Inc. movie. I think regardless of how much I had a distaste for the writing in the 2001 Monsters Incorporated, I felt like the world building had merit, and the idea that this is an energy thing and we run off the scares of children was fucking fascinating. I just wish it was written better.
Yeah.
This one doesn't feel like it's trying to be a college movie with a monster skin or a prequel to Monsters University. It does it both really well, and it's a hard bog to get out of, and I think it did really well. But
yeah. Again, I love this movie, and I'm so glad that you didn't have... your knee-jerk reaction of, this is a stupid, unnecessary prequel. I was like, yeah, but you haven't watched it.
They turned it around. I like that. We'll get to Finding Dory in a moment. Guys, thank you for watching this episode where we discussed 2013's Monsters University. Join us in 1 week where we're tackling 2015's Inside Out. Another one of those ones I've only really seen one time.
Yep, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch this again. This is pretty divisive when we first saw it, so, for us.
But thanks for joining us, kids, and we'll see you next time.
Doodles!